How many hours does it take to learn French as an adult? Hi, my name is Chris from OuiCommunicate. I do bilingual French classes for adults. And before I start, a quick disclaimer. This isn't clickbait, and I won't be giving you a definite number. So don't click through the video to hear the number. There won't be a number. I'll rather help you reflect on your own learning to see if you're putting in the right number of hours. Now, at the risk of stating the obvious, if we think that French will happen by playing with one of these, it won't. Learning French is a transformative experience. Learning any language is a transformative experience, the kind of which you can hardly compare with anything else in a lifetime. So this isn't going to do it, sadly. Only in Duolingo world will it ever happen. Learning a language, I've said many times, is a transformative experience. It takes commitment, it takes structure and the right mindset, not just a vague interest. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the time it takes, because it's not just about time, it's also about how you use it. Let's look at a few numbers now. If you study French 2 hours a week, this adds up to 8 hours a month, 100 hours a year, and that's 12 full days of learning a year. 12 days if you do 2 hours a week. Now we can ask ourselves, can we become good at anything? Tennis, coding, painting, plumbing, in 12 days a year. We all have a similar life experience. If I do anything 12 days a year, am I going to get good at it? Let's increase this to 4 hours a week. 4 hours of French a week. So this is 24 full days a year. It's better, but is it impressive? If I did something for 24 full days last year, how good would I be at it, realistically? Now what if I did 8 hours a week? 8 hours a week, focused, that's 48 full days out of my year, almost 2 months that I dedicated to French across the year. We're starting to talk progress here, so we can agree that doing more helps. But time, of course, isn't enough. Efficiency matters a lot more, obviously, because there's something I've seen quite often when speaking to people who are learning French. The issue is that time alone won't teach you. Putting in the time, it isn't enough. Obviously, it depends how you use that time. Busy is not synonymous with productive. Activity is not synonymous with progress. Let's now talk about the way boredom settles in, because it's an unfortunate thing that does happen. Boredom is obviously your worst enemy, and it sets in when you're spending time but not really improving. I think it's important to ask ourselves, if I was studying a language, that's what I would do. You have to ask yourself, I think, am I better this week than I was last week? I think it's a very important question. And if we can't answer that, we're probably wasting, I don't like to say wasting our time, but at least wasting a part of our time. A fraction of our time is being wasted. We're supposed to be moving forward at all times, ideally. If we can't exactly say, well, I learned this week and I couldn't do it last week, if we can't answer that question, something's not really working. If you ask me what the ideal number of hours is a week, well, I'd still say there's no ideal number, but in my experience, 4 hours a week is a starting point. It's all right. 6 to 8 hours a week is a lot better if you pair it with targeted methods, and very often you'll find that this is not a targeted method. But you can also do too much, and you have to think about burnout, because if you do more than 10 to 12 hours a week, it can become counterproductive. I think there's a natural limitation to how much the human brain can take in. And this is why you should, in my opinion, never sign up to any program that any language school sells you, fast-paced French or intense French week or whatever they call it. I've actually taught some of these, that they never work. Sometimes less is more, and more is not more. So you might sign up to an intense French week, 8 hours a day, but you'll just remember a fraction of it. It really doesn't work. At least not as well as they say it will work. I think we have to be smart about it, and we have to be honest with ourselves. We don't learn the piano or the guitar by casually playing 15 minutes here and there. You have to commit, you have to show up. and you make mistakes, and it takes determination, it takes grit, and you have to push through the obstacles. It takes time, but it really takes structured and targeted time. And I always tell learners, well, don't just put in the hours, make the hours count. It's not just a matter of finding the magical number, you have to make the hours count. You can't just consume content. You have to be able to measure your progress. You have to be better this week than you were last week. And also there's the risk of overdoing it, because boredom and burnout, of course, do kill consistency. And to conclude this video, I like to look at it not in terms of hours necessarily, but rather going from the timeline backwards. I encourage students to say, this time next year, I want to know French. What must I do to make it happen? And then you start to look at French in terms of skills and knocking down the blocks until you know all the skills that matter. And my guess is that if you do 6 hours a week times 4 times 12, that's 288 hours of targeted study. On my website at least, OuiCommunicate.com, you can already learn tons. In 288 hours of targeted study, you'll cover tons. And the second year, you work on your fluency. That's what I believe to be possible. My name's Chris from OuiCommunicate. I hope this video was useful. See you soon in the French class.